Okay, wonderful. So today is October 4th, and I'm Judy Stewart. So welcome to our virtual Career Tuesday. The employer that is joining us today is Penske, which is a very large logistics operations company with locations all over the United States and maybe even the world. I'll let them tell you about that. My colleague Sue Landolina is on with me, and I'm going to introduce Holly Bartoletti from Penske. As we start, please keep in mind that you can ask questions in the chat bar, or better yet, on video with your own voice. Either one's good. We have started with Holly putting her email address in the chat bar, so that afterwards, if you have any questions or you want to reach out to her. And Dan Donnelly, if you also want to put your email address, if that's okay with you, that would be wonderful. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Holly and ask her to start us off on Penske and everything that we need to know about this great company.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Judy. It's exciting to be here. Yeah, I'd like to start off by, if it's all right, I'll share my screen. We'll play just a very brief video. It just really encompasses how Penske came to be. We recently celebrated a 50-year anniversary. That was right before COVID, so we're about 52 years in now. But Roger Penske is still actively involved. He's still the owner of the organization, and so we're very proud of where we come from. We're very humble with our roots, and I think it's something that really is exemplified here. If you just let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay.
It should be black. It'll be black when it's up. Okay.
Yes, we can see it. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Dan. We don't have any sound on that.
Oh no.
That's what I thought.
Oh, the audio didn't. Okay, so what I can do is we can figure out a way to get you the information on that video, but
Sure.
Perfect. But really what we like to talk about is we are still privately held. We are not a publicly traded organization, and that allows us a lot of freedoms and opportunities in how we operate. And I'll go ahead and, Judy, are we sharing that slide deck, or is that
You
something?
can share your slide. Yes, if you have a PowerPoint or a slide deck, go right.
Oh yeah, yep, I do. I sent that in. I wasn't sure. I apologize if that needed to be shared through you. Let me just.
Oh, I'm not sure that I received it. So if you still have it,
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic.
Yep, I will go ahead and get that moving here. Excellent. All right, can we see the slides?
Yes, beautiful.
Perfect. So one of the, we like, and like I mentioned, I'm Holly Bartoletti. So we'll just start off there. I'm the field sales manager for Penske Truck Leasing. And what that means is I work within the Northeast area, and I help with coaching, training, developing our sales team. We deal with a lot of really complex contracts within the organization. And so I help the team learn and navigate because people don't come into the organization necessarily understanding that piece of it. We expect them to learn and grow over time. And Dan Donnelly, my counterpart, who's here. Dan, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Dan Donnelly. I'm the director of field sales for the Northeast region. So that encompasses basically Maine down to Virginia, out through all of Pennsylvania. I'm responsible for all of our local sales team, as we call them. We have two separate groups of sales folks. We have local sales team that are tied to specific districts that are more regional, if you will. And then we also have a national sales team that obviously have the ability to sell across all states. So I oversee about 56 associates when all combined.
Perfect. So we work together. We oversee several associates throughout the area, and more so from a coaching and training perspective. They do have management that they directly report to, but we're here to be coaching, training, and helping bring in the most profitable deals for the organization and help those associates grow and develop within their careers. Because again, the sky's the limit. I mean, we've got hundreds of thousands of positions available across the organization. And so many of our team, they're not in the final position of their career. You know, they're at a stepping stone. And our goal is, even if they don't work with us for forever, is to help them be in that next step. So when we talk to people about Penske, one of the most common questions we get asked is, what do they know about applying for the organization, or what do they know about Penske? And you know, when you first want to look at coming into the organization, you don't need to know everything about trucks. You know, I'll be completely honest. I got out of college, I was applying like crazy for a job, and I landed with an interview with Penske, and I wasn't sure I was going to be in sales or in trucks. It wasn't something that had ever appealed to me in the past. But the more you get to know about what we do, the more you understand it. We do business to business transactions, right? We help every organization, every company that produces a product has to move it. And we are there as the medium to help them do that. And that can be through several different opportunities. But really, what's important to the organization is we hire at a very entry level the majority of the time. The vast majority of our promotions come from within. So we bring people in understanding that you may not know everything, you may not have a lot of work life experience, and that's totally acceptable. What we want to know more about is yourself, and if you are going to, not only are you a good fit for Penske, but is Penske a good fit for you? Because when we're interviewing somebody for that entry level role, we're really looking at where are they going to be in 5 years within the organization, and are they the next VP of the department? You know, and that's ultimately where we want to see them going. And so one of the things we look at more so is your personal brand. And these are more internal questions, but they're things we definitely would want somebody to resonate, you know, or to take some time and reflect upon before coming into their interview. And that is, what is your personal brand? Who are you? How do you identify with those attributes? What are they? You know, what makes you different or unique, or what drives you? And then really, how do you express that? You know, what does the world around you know about you, and how do they know that? And those are the things that we really want to understand. You know, are you relatable? Do you have good communication skills? These are all things that are going to be important, because at the end of the day, if you can communicate to a customer, you don't have to know the inner workings of a vehicle or anything to those nature, but you can be compassionate with them when they're having a hard day, or there's a delay in the delivery because there was a vehicle had a mechanical failure. You're going to be light years ahead of many others. And that really is just what we look for when we look for candidates in our role. So you'll get building that personal brand. We talk a lot about verbal, written, and communication. And so how do they communicate with us in the interview? How do you communicate with yourself? What type, what's your, how fluid is your conversation? What have you done to express who you are? Do you have an elevator pitch prepared? You know, that sort of thing. And that's again, much more important than the technical knowledge of what you would be doing in the role. We can teach many things, but there are certain things like this that, we want to see the candidates have. And then also, we want to see that they're currently investing in themselves. And what we mean by that is just like those that are here today. You're taking your time out of your day. You are learning, you are growing. What materials are you reading every day? Or do you understand what's going on in the economic climate that we're facing right now? And if you don't have to know it all, you don't have to be the expert, but what do you understand about it? You know, our industry is impacted in several different ways. You've got all these commodity shortages, supply chain shortages. So when we order equipment, for example, we order a truck that's specifically designed for a customer, it's built from the ground up. Because a lot of these times these customers have very specific needs to make sure that their product is secured correctly, all of that. But when you're talking a year out and aluminum pricing has spiked and dropped, we're looking at very substantial changes in our pricing structures. And so that's not something we would expect somebody to know off the top of their head, but do they understand what the impact has been to the economy recently and where that may come into effect with any organization? LinkedIn, networking, social network, we really just, are you professional and who are you connected with? How are you networking yourself today? And that can be through extracurriculars, that can be through team activities, that can be through just work outside of of school or an internship, but just explain and be able to articulate what you are doing to help develop yourself in your current state today. Are there any questions? Perfect.
Not so far.
No problem. Feel free to jump in, anybody, at any point. We're happy to to answer the questions. The next part I'll talk a little bit about is, so what does Penske look like from there? Dan and I are both are part of the sales path, but there is so much more to the organization. That's something we really want to articulate, because that's one of the things when we were there on campus last week, we were asked consistently about is what other opportunities are there? And so just to start, before we jump into what makes us tick, this is a little bit more about our structure within Penske. So many people recognize that first line, that consumer rental, right? We rent those big yellow trucks. If you want to move your house, you come into a Home Depot or a Penske location, you pick up a rental vehicle, pack your things, move to a dorm room, new house, and drop the truck back off when you're done. That is a huge piece of our organization, but by no means is it our complete package. We do commercial rental as well. So those businesses that have seasonal demands, for example, they need an extra piece of equipment or several through, say, the summer months. Several growers, for example, have peak seasons where they need a lot of extra equipment. They'll come to us for that, and we support them there. You also have contract maintenance. So many fleets, for accounting purposes, choose to own their own assets, but they do need a partner with a network to help provide solutions for maintenance and services throughout the country. And so we partner with those types of organizations. And then the last piece we do, which is really our the crux of what we do, is full service leasing, and that would be where we build the truck, we design it to meet the customer's needs, we order it, and when it comes in, that customer leases it through a contract for what we attribute to be its useful life. This is an operating lease, and so Penske retains the ownership of the asset, and when it's the life of the vehicle or that contract has expired, the truck comes back to the organization. So within Penske, we have several different steps that help make all of those different branches tick. And you've got sales, of course, you've got operations, so the people that are boots on the ground working day to day to help ensure that we're providing that excellent product to the customer. The trucks are clean, they're organized, we're maintaining their contracts correctly, we're accountable for the revenue that's coming in. Finance then oversees what comes in, our accounts receivable, payable, a lot of that really directly impacts our profit and loss statement. And then the maintenance side of things as well, we operate, all of these locations have their own facilities that maintain the equipment. And as you move through an operational role within the organization, if that were to be a choice, you eventually will work into a position where you not only work side by side with our service team, but you probably oversee a service location. And so that's something that, it may not be directly in your career path, but it's something you learn enough about that you understand what makes the inner workings of that shop tick. Because from a financial perspective, there's a lot of pieces that move in and out. You've got technicians that we need to obviously, we work with, and we work very hard to ensure their safety, and that they're having the best quality for a work experience as well. And really, it's a big piece of what we do is we guarantee service to our customers. And so we have to make sure that all facets of the organization are functioning as one cohesive piece. This is a little bit more of a slide that shows several of those different areas in a job title perspective. So when somebody generally comes into the organization, we bring them in as what's called a sales and operations management trainee. And the reason we do this is, again, we call it entry level. We expect a college degree. And what we want to do is teach the nuts and bolts of the organization. What do you need to know about a truck leasing and rental operation? And that's our profit and loss statement. That's the ins and outs of our contractual agreements and many of the different nuances that go with our specific organization. This is something that we like to teach ourselves and our team, just so we know that they have knowledge of how Penske operates. But from there, generally, once you show the acumen, you show that you have an understanding, there's several openings you can move right into, and those would be in rental sales representative, a branch rental manager, customer service coordinator, operations coordinator. You can go in through our corporate departments. There's several, and recently in this slide, it hasn't been updated. There's several. There's HR opportunities as well. And I'm not going to read all of the opportunities here, but what's interesting is that it doesn't mean that, say you moved into a rental sales representative role, you're not pigeonholed forever that you're going to go through that sales trajectory. It's very common throughout the organization that people move all over. I was at a sales role for a while and stepped into a position where I did some sales, but I also oversaw an entire location. And so we work hand in hand to help people really find what works for them and what's best for the career, I'm sorry, the company, by providing them the best career path for themselves. And again, I mean, if you talk to Brian Hart, our executive president, our CEO, he came in 1973 in a sales role and has been with the company since. And many, if not, I mean, I can't think of an example where they haven't, but all of our senior leadership has come in and started at this management trainee level, and has worked their way up. And so it's not something that we just tell people that they have to do. It's just, it's what we do and we promote from within. It's how we provide everybody the right training and technical expertise to be able to perform well in their roles. So I'm going to talk quickly about a couple of the sales roles, since that's what Dan and I are specifically involved in. But again, if there are any questions about any of these roles or any of these bucketed opportunities, please, reach out or put a question in the chat, and we can absolutely get you an answer. So the entry level role for sales would be your rental sales roles. And what they do is these rental team, they go out, they're on the road. They're given a company car, they're given a company laptop and a company cell phone. And the idea is they're given a lot of freedom to be able to go ahead and develop relationships with our business to business. We do business to business sales. So with our business customers, they work with the different, they go out, they look for new business opportunities. They work with maintaining the current accounts that we have. And they help to drive revenue by winning us the best deals possible. They compete with some of the major competitors in the marketplace and bring home opportunities, and we'll get creative and we'll help with them to find a solution, but ultimately in what they bring home, they are paid a commission as well. And then, as from there, some of the roles they'll be eligible for would be an LSR, which is a lease sales representative. They do our contractual leases, a branch rental manager. So if they wanted to manage one of the rental counters, consumer development manager, which oversees some of our agent locations. And what I mean by an agent location is like a Home Depot. It's a satellite location that rents Penske vehicles as a subsidiary to their business. And then assistant district rental manager. So again, on management level within the organization where they'd be helping oversee some of that rental department. Our lease sales role, as I mentioned, they oversee our contractual customers and our contractual business. So again, we typically, everything we do is on a contract, and we have to work to negotiate these contracts with other businesses. And so typically a contract is 5 to 7 years long, and when that contract is signed, it's not a once and done application. We are building and maintaining a significant relationship through the entire life of that contract. So we have two types of lease sales representatives. You have your new business. Their primary objective is they have a defined territory, and they have that company car, laptop, and they're on the road. They're raking dials, and they're out looking for new opportunities. And then we also have an existing account manager base. And so they manage a book of business, and their defined goal is to retain that business, but also grow it. When opportunities arise, are we taking the opportunity to grow and develop that relationship further with the customer? And the same thing, they're eligible for commission as well on all opportunities that they're bringing to the table. And the last one I'll just touch on lightly is our executive account manager, and that's a national account base. So these account managers, what they work with some of our largest companies or businesses across the country. And as you can imagine, working with one organization across the entire country can be very complex. And so a lot of times we look at them almost like the conductors in the orchestra, and they have to have really good interpersonal skills and to be able to work with a variety of people, because it's not just the customer. They work with the local teams for Penske in each of these locations and help ensure that they communicate the customer's needs and that the customer's needs are being met through that communication. Now, this role particularly because they oversee a national basis, they do travel a bit more. There's a little more of an expectation that they will go visit customers in other parts of the country. But overall, again, I mean, company car, laptop, commission, and again, sky's the limit. There's VP positions, director positions, plenty of things available. And again, this is an outline path, but it's not by any means the concrete path and the only way if you're in sales within the organization. Dan, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing I'd like to add. I think you did a great job talking about the positions. We do have one question that came in from Mick, and I remember you from last week, so good afternoon. But is there a segment of the business that also does focus on supply chain management for the business? And are there specific roles for this arena? And yeah, the great question. We're formerly known as Penske Transportation Solutions. So as Holly's done a good job articulating, we work for the Penske truck leasing side of that business. On the other side of it is Penske Logistics, and that answers your question there. And that is our supply chain management side of the business. We have everything from a dedicated contract carrier product line to full supply chain management product line and things in between from consultation perspective, et cetera. So what you see from sales on the Penske truck leasing, you can envision that is also replicated on the Penske logistics side. We have account managers that more or less manage the relationships of existing customers, as well as new business hunters that go out and find new opportunities. And we compete with the JB Hunts of the world, the Snyders of the world. We're actually the number 3 largest dedicated carrier in the United States. It's not a well-known fact, but one that we got to do a better job of making sure people are aware of. And that came through organic growth through our organization, as well as M&A. We had a recent acquisition about 2 years ago of Black Horse Carriers that really led us up that ranking, if you will. But we're certainly in both spaces. So great question.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
No problem. Just to expand upon something that I think Holly talked about, and then I'll open it up for further questions. And I think it's important that everybody knows, when you look at myself, I've now celebrated 22 years this past June with the organization. Coming right out of, don't boo at me, but Temple University. But from there, I have never looked back. And that's one thing that I think about that separates us from the pack, if you will, is we promote from within the majority of the times. And it's because of that institutional knowledge that we think that helps separate us from our competitors, right? So when Holly mentioned this, when you look at our senior leadership, whether it's Brian Hart, who's our CEO, or our president, Art Valet, or our senior vice president of sales, who happens to be a UConn grad, all of us have started in similar positions, and that is that management trainee position that Holly talked about earlier on, and then have worked our way up through the organization through different channels. And if you were to ask me 22 years ago when I came into the organization, we did follow linear paths. We followed, if you wanted sales, then this was your stepping stone to sales. If you wanted to be in operations, this was your stepping stone, or finance, etc. What we've learned and what we've developed on is that kind of what I refer to as cross-pollination, right? So I was in operations for a lot of years. I've come in and out of both operations and sales, and that's helped me be a more rounded solution maker for both internal customers and external customers. Internal being those that I lead each and every day, and our customers that we help provide solutions for. So it's really an interesting step. So you don't feel like you come in and you've created your destiny and that's going to be your destiny forever. We give you opportunity to explore wherever your talent lies and takes you. So I think that's a good takeaway, if for nothing else, today on this call. But I'll pause. We're coming up on the half-hour mark. I'm not exactly sure how long we have today, but I want to be conscious of everybody's time and open it up for any questions or thoughts that you might have.
I have a question. A few times Holly has mentioned, car, laptop, etc., commission. Is there salary plus commission, or are these jobs only commission?
No, they are salary plus commission, and they're very competitive salaries. And so it actually, our sales roles, quite frankly, can be very lucrative opportunities for our associates. I'd also like to point out one thing that we are a little unique in is a lot of our management roles as well also include a bonus, a laptop, car, and so there are some of our finance positions as well. So there are many positions within the organization. One of the perks, I guess, of Penske also owning Penske Auto Group is that we have the affordability that several of our associates have company cars that they're allowed to be used for personal use. They are, they're great perks, and they're nice vehicles.
Is there an actual link to a job posting that you can either put in chat or tell us where the students would find these job postings?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me, I'll pull it up. I'll throw it in the chat. Just give me one minute.
Okay. Okay, great.
And I just wanted to say hi to Dan and Holly. It's nice to see both of you again. Sorry I was a little late to the game here. But Dan, we talked about this before in the past about the culture. Holly, I know you touched on that a little bit, but one of the things that you have, like in the materials, is that you're guided by a deep sense of responsibility. And I think our students are really connected to that type of community culture. Do either one of you want to speak to that for just a moment?
I'll start off. I like stories and I like sharing my experience, and hopefully that relates. But you know what? One of the things that attracted me to Penske, and I don't know if this is true among everybody, but I didn't know a lot about Penske before I worked for them. It found me, and then I'm thankful for it. But what really got the drive, that culture, was the passion around being an entrepreneurial spirit, right? Being able to actually have a contribution and impact and seeing it. So when I first started with the company, I worked at what is called a rental mart. It's a facility where we only do rental, commercial, both commercially and household. And I was the only one in that store. So I got to own it like it was my own business. I got to drive it, make the sales. When the calls were coming in, I made it my daily mission to convert those into actual reservations and book the trucks, because I saw what I was doing every day and how it contributed to the business. And that's where that culture really comes from, right? It's that winning spirit. If you want to take it back to, unfortunately, we were unable to show the video, but for anybody who knows anything about racing, Roger Penske is a legend among the NASCAR and Indianapolis, or Indy 500 rather. We actually own the Indy 500 Motor Speedway. That's part of Roger's portfolio, but that's where that heritage began, that competitive spirit, that wanting to be able to have the ability to take your effort and make it into results. And that's a cliche statement that Rogers talks about all the time. In fact, every time we hit a milestone from an anniversary, I get a coin, and on it says effort equals results, right? And it's where the culture begins, and that's how we've built a very successful and continue to grow. We're an industry leader, and we're not slowing down. Holly, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch myself personally. I think what really, again, I took a job with Penske right out of college looking for something, but really where I stuck was the same thing. I remember being in an internship, and I was a marketing major. I was interning at a local bank, and it was okay. You did the basics in and out, but one day I looked around and it was like, everybody has been here for several years, and the only way they're going anywhere is by the next person in front of them retiring or moving on or something happening. And even then, it's politically based, it's based on tenure. There was nothing I was going to do as an entry level associate to outrank or to show that myself. And you just have that motivation to climb and want to do better. And you come into Penske, and you're recognized for your work, and you're heard at so many different levels. And it's not just you're a cog in the wheel, you follow these steps and that's it. It's like, if you have a better idea, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what you can do to be creative. How can we get better? And that's a lot of the success we see, is because we listen to our associates. As a manager of that location that where I started, I came back and I ran that location. We had several just focus groups with our technicians, with our team that washes the trucks, just talking to them. And in doing that, it was amazing, just the ideas that we could make, the small changes we were able to make just to help improve the customer experience by hearing them from that level. And we do that every single day. I'm part of a resource group. I'm part of a women in the they call it the field, but women out in the Penske within outside of the corporate office, where we come together on a regular basis and we meet and we talk about what can we do to help make things better for our team and for our people. And that really has driven me every day, is that it's a company that really cares. They're compassionate, and it's just the things we've done for our associates when they're facing hard life events. I mean, somebody put it one time and it resonated with me a lot, was that Penske's really easy. Most jobs are, right? The job is easy. It's life that gets really complicated. And where the differentiator is how does that company react when you're facing a life event? And Penske has really stood out for several years. I came straight out of college, and I'm coming up on 9 years this year.
That's great. Any other questions from the students, either in chat or raise your hand? Okay. I just want to remind you that our friends from Penske have put their emails in the chat. So if you want to stand out, please connect with them and connect with them on LinkedIn. And if you have any further questions that you don't that appear afterwards, that always happens, of course, feel free to reach out to them. So Holly and Dan, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And the students that are here and the students that aren't here, we will be posting this on our YouTube channel for those that could not be with us today. So thank you very much. Stay dry in this rain. I don't know where you are, but it's raining a lot here. And be well. So thank you very much, Holly and Dan, and the students that have joined us. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Thank you.
Take care.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.